Gustafson? Here. Ms. Grant? Here. Mr. Sherman?
Here.
Mr. Bowens?
Here.
Mr. Guda?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here. Well, first thing on the agenda is nomination for presidents of city council. This is not about unseating me, as Larry from the Athens Messenger has stated in his one-sided story. Only after 6 months on council, I was thrust into the seat of president when Ed Mash quit. All council members should have a copy of the city charter, rules. I am nominating Greg Smith for council president. I feel he has more knowledge of the law, charter, and the rules of council. The town is planning to nominate and elect Margaret to council president. Mayor's Court will have to be moved to Athens, and Athens will be collecting any and all fines for at least 7 months. She also lacks the experience and knowledge of the law, charter, and council rules, only being on council 7 months. Mr. Hunter will not be here tonight.
Carla and Margaret both come to me and asked me if I would take the president's job. I really am very busy and I didn't really want to take the president's job. I called Mr. Guda. He said he would support me. I used to be a cop. I can de-stress things if I have. I had 4 votes. I was going to go ahead and do it. Really good friend of mine is 75 years old and he only has 20% of his heart left. And he called me and he was crying. Someone was passing out flyers talking about when years ago when I got fired as chief of police in Nelsonville and got drunk up with skinny dip and got fired. It didn't stop there. Betty Jo was accused of passing the flyers because people were picking up her messenger, putting the messenger on top. So a lot of her customers called me up really mad at Betty Jo. Betty Jo didn't do that. Wanted to say on camera that she is innocent of that. She didn't do it. I don't care who did it. All this trouble has been going on for the last 3-4 weeks. We've had a baton group bring back 2 state championships. And we've had 5 articles in the paper and nothing about them kids bringing back them 2 state championships. I'll accept Dan's nomination. This stuff of trying to destroy each other, that's not Nelsonville. Nelsonville has never been about destroying each other. If everybody wants to sit around and destroy each other and carry on and whatever, I really don't have much desire to do it. But I do believe the Mayor's Court will have to be shuttered. And I would be glad for Margaret to sit beside me at Mayor's Court, and I'll be glad to teach her everything I know about Mayor's Court. And in January, I'd be glad to step aside the same way that I stepped aside for Dan when Dan wanted to be vice president. I wore this shirt tonight, Buckeyes, Nelsonville, New York, because when we are a team, they can't beat us. We had a football team that was in the semifinals. We had wrestlers that come back with state championships. I'm saying we got to get back to being Team Buckeye. Me and Bill Wynn used to argue about the charter all the time. He was for the charter and I was against it. The night Bill got diagnosed with leukemia, we were sitting down at his building, his little coffee shop, and we were both crying, even though we had debated for years. We were both worried about how his family was going to be taken care of. We kind of suspected it was a death sentence. And Nelsonville has to get back to that. If we're going to try to destroy each other, we are lost. We're going down the tubes.
When you said I supported you, that was over a month ago.
And I asked you to correct that.
I said I was considering it.
I don't think this town tears itself apart.
I'd like to nominate Margaret for council president.
I spoke to the judge of the municipal court in Athens, and he said a percentage of the fines would then come back to Nelsonville, so I don't think we'll be losing very much money, and I think it's a good idea to abolish mayor's court here in Nelsonville. I'd be supporting that.
Over the past week, it's been fun being on city council. It's been difficult, but a lot of people reached out with their opinions and their concerns for Nelsonville. It's been from both sides. It doesn't matter who reached out, they wanted change. And with Greg, a lot of people supported him and said that he has the most knowledge out of all of us on council. You've been a part of it for 20 years, and there's not been much change. You know, we're still falling apart. We want change for the town. So with that, I'd have to say I support Margaret as well.
Are we going straight to the vote?
Do they need a second? I'll second Grant's nomination.
Instead of going around, we need to vote on each one individually so there isn't what happened before with Dottie.
We'll vote. We're going to do the vote.
I vote yes.
I vote yes for myself. Can you vote yes twice? No. Be voting no.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
I am going to try to get some sort of agreement on council and get the fighting to stop. I'm going to vote yes. I would ask Carla and Dan to change their vote. Whenever we did a council member, we did go in executive session, and when we finally agreed on one person, we'd come out and we'd vote unanimously for that one person, so there wasn't any chance of there being a controversy. After I've seen Margaret had 4 votes, there's no reason for me not to vote for her. I do think we got to shut her mayor's court.
Well, I guess mayor's court's abolished. Margaret, it's all yours. I will make a brief statement, though. I'm not hanging out for this whole meeting. Something to do with Robert's Rules of Order. There are already council rules in place. You'd have to bring forth an ordinance to abolish the existing rules and then adopt Robert's rules.
What are the existing rules? 'Cause
There
I've
are
asked-
council existing rules.
I've asked.
We have to find them.
They're back when Bill Wynn was the council president. If I'd have had a key Sunday, I'd have come in and tried to find them. They're about a page and a half long, and we adopted them as an ordinance or a resolution, one of the two. I was on the committee that wrote them.
I've been looking for them for a long time. I can't
I
find
know they're there because I wrote the rules, and they're very good rules.
Were those rules in effect last meeting?
They should have always been, we need to find them. If we want to make any changes,
What year were those? Was it about?
I can only tell you that Bill Wynn was president in the 90s.
I'm not sure they actually exist.
They're either in the resolution book or the ordinance book. I've been on council since 96 or 97.
Because at the last meeting, these rules were in effect.
They were, yes.
But at the last meeting, council members were told in front of this camera that we were not allowed to speak, period. We were not allowed to answer questions. We were not allowed to make motions. Grant tried to make several motions. He was told he could not. And in fact, he was called, quote unquote, out of order,
I believe I was too.
which, if experience shows us what happened when you're out of order, was you were forcibly removed from the table 15 to 20 minutes before.
There's nobody forcibly removed.
I was.
She was.
Yeah.
Hush.
Oh, no way!
There was-
Don't you dare hush her.
Dan, let me finish.
Dictator.
She was told she is not a council person, and I asked her, please
Do we
remove
have to-
yourself from the table.
Do we have to rehash?
Listen,
Taylor,
I'm not discussing the whole
Taylor,
document
can
because
we-
she's got a lawsuit
Can I
pending.
just talk to you a second and talk to Dan? I agree 100% that Dan lost his cool. I was trying to get Dan's eye contact so I could try to get things back, and I didn't make it. But I don't think there's any good to be hammering on Dan, to be hammering on Margaret.
I will sign autographs later if anybody's looking for them.
It's over
No,
with.
thanks.
See ya.
It's what you don't know is I talked to Gary Hunter before the meeting to fully explain the legalities of this. And Gary talked to Dan. As soon as that started, I was trying to get Dan's attention. He got ruled out of order. I think I got ruled out of order. I just decided that things were out of control and I couldn't fix it. It was wrong. I don't think it's right to keep hammering on somebody because he freely admitted that the job was more than he could handle.
It has nothing to do with hammering. It has to do with if you're an elected member of this body and you have a motion and a second, or just a motion, or just something to say, you should be able to say it, period.
I agree.
My main point was that this council in this room last week did not conduct itself in such a way despite objections from around the table. And so if the rules were in effect while that was taking place, those rules aren't good enough. Those rules can't be found. So I know this council doesn't know those rules. We should adopt rules that are in front of us, that we can all abide by. Do they get a little tedious at times? Yes. But if the rules aren't there, and if the rules aren't known, there are not council
All I'm
rules.
suggested is that we have either a resolution or ordinance, and we pull that out, and if everybody wants to amend those rules and then get them back in front of everybody, charter-wise, they have to be an ordinance or a resolution and adopted. There was an effort by about 3 people on council to take public comment off the agenda because as a council body, you're not obligated to do public comment. A lot of councils, unless you call and get on the agenda, you're not allowed to speak at all. Because
Why don't we just focus on Taylor's question? And would you agree if Greg can find those rules to look over them?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I just need a key to the front door and the clerk's office. Ed was supposed to get me a key. I haven't had a key for a long time.
Greg, I was supposed to get you a key while I'm here, speak to me.
I didn't see you there, Ed, but I had asked you to get me a key, and we both forgot about it, and I don't have a key.
You can't key to that office, and nobody's got a key to the front door.
Okay, can we do that for next meeting?
We have quite a few people who are new on city council. Are you guys presented with things to review?
And
Rules and
regulations?
protocol and how it works?
Not really.
I can tell you, I asked for them and they said no.
No, because they didn't have them, or no, because that would probably be something really good for everybody. I mean, I've considered sometime running for council myself, but I would have thought you all received.
We really should have training too, Brian.
When there was a new election, there was a training for council members that those of us still on council, Greg, Ed, and I conducted for the new council members. It was several days, yeah. And we didn't have rules and procedures at the time because we've asked for them. And actually, Ed's shaking his head back there. I think he put up the number 6, maybe asked 6 times for them. So I honestly don't think these rules exist. I think we should just adopt new rules.
Okay, I mean, I would just find that it would be very important if I was to join this group, that I would like to know what the protocol was or how to respond.
Ed did set us up with a few. When the 4 of us got elected, he did have a couple special meetings. We got the basics.
One of the problems is, what happened on this council was you had me, Ed, and Taylor that held over. And then we had 4 completely new people at the time. And we had talked about having a retreat. Everybody couldn't get their schedules together, or people have to work and they couldn't get their schedules together, and the retreat never happened. The city attorney was going to put it on. Rules need to be adopted as an ordinance or resolution to comply with the charter. Citizen comments at the beginning of the meeting, those was all included in that list of rules. And I'll do my best to try to find them.
I want to know why Dan left. What was the reason that he left?
He's just absent for this meeting, just like he didn't come. I think his feelings are hurt, and I would just encourage everybody to let it go.
Is he coming back?
If he ain't coming back, he'd have to tender resignation or miss
So
3
he
meetings
didn't say,
in a row.
I quit or I resign?
No, he just left.
I think the citizens should be able to speak and make comments and give their opinion of things at the council meetings. You know, the city manager works for the council. The council works for the electors of the city. And we should have a right to make our comments and make our opinions known. How else would you know what we want in this town?
I was insisting that people be allowed to
Well,
talk.
that's another thing. It just seems like council fights with each other. Nobody can agree on anything. They all fight with one another and we get nowhere.
Team Buckeye.
We have mentioned maybe sometime trying to get like some type of a town hall meeting or something to get input, not just when something's going on and people want to come and complain. Ideas. Get as many townspeople as we can. Just what you call brainstorming.
Back when Bill was president, we used to have what called was work sessions. Come up with a subject, for instance, all the abandoned houses we got. We would schedule a work session on Saturday morning and talk about how we could solve that problem.
Council and public discussion and voting on rules in regards to the city law department and city attorney, and sharing of all and any legal opinions or advice made on any city issue with all of council at all times.
In the last week, I've called several folks about this issue at the beginning of this appointment process a week ago, especially when there's an absence from the city attorney, that an availability of opinions to city council would prevent confusion, would prevent uncertainty. If you go back to the tape from the last meeting, there's a lot of back and forth about an opinion. Margaret and I simply just said we can't speak on it because we don't know. Opinions from the attorney regarding all of council would be available. My opinion and my thought was that it could prevent a lot of confusion in the future if we had an availability of those opinions.
After the meeting where I was saying we need 4 votes, we need 4 votes, when I went in to see Gary, I said to him, if he'd been here, he had planned to be here, but it was just a comedy of errors. He had left California at 6 o'clock in the morning, and because of the bad storms or stuff, they diverted him to Dallas and whatever. But he also said if a serious question comes up, if there's an argument about it, the way to handle it, it would be to continue the meeting till the next night. He was in the air the night that we had to, he wasn't in office the next day, he had to go to Columbus or something, because I tried to get hold of him the next day. I had some dissatisfaction with Gary too, about asking for opinion and not getting it. So after I had talked to you guys, I went to Gary to talk to say, "Oh, look," I said, "any councilman that has a question, it should be answered. If you're asking for a verbal answer, that's off the top of the head. If you're asking for a written legal opinion, that has to be researched and backed up with case law and documentation." So any time there's a actual written opinion that comes out from the city attorney, that definitely should be shared by, I think it should go to the Athens News, the Athens Messenger, it should go to WAIS, it should go to every council member and the city attorney and the auditor staff, as far as I'm concerned, because if a written legal opinion is a public record, he probably is professionally prevented from talking about a question you ask him unless you release him.
The specific example that really bothered me, which was covered in the papers actually, was the day after the appointment process. We were told via email, which I'm not sure is allowable anyway, that the appointment that we thought we had made the day before was invalid. The council president let us know that he was told via phone call, and the rest of us were just supposed to accept it. And so I guess I'm saying is that, so the paper hits that Dottie's appointment's illegal, we ask questions, and we're told it was over a phone call with the city attorney, with the council president, and we're just left to shrug our shoulders, I guess. That seems really backward. It should not work that way.
I will tell you, Taylor, and I talked to Gary on Wednesday, I brought up the 4-vote issue, and he told me, and I explained it to everybody on council on the email. Now, you can talk on email, you can't make a decision. I said in the email that I reported to everybody on council, I reported it verbatim as I was told, and I didn't try to hide a thing. But anytime the attorney tells me something and I share it with the rest of council, I'm going to share it.
I feel like the attorney should just share it with council.
Well,
I mean, that's what we pay him a lot of money to do.
Before we closed that conversation, I asked him if he would do a written opinion and get it out. And he said, "Yes, I will, but I'm working in Columbus tomorrow, it'll be Friday morning." He had to research the opinion before he could write it. And I understand that.
But at some point, he was giving Dan advice on bringing Derek on board.
We probably have to refer this to judiciary.
I think so.
Anyway, so Grant, also, if you'd like to take that up, I'd love to attend that meeting. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you clarify whether or not you have to accept the advice of your attorney? I mean, it's just an opinion, right?
It doesn't hold any authority in the city.
So when Dan decided to go by his opinion, did he ask anyone?
I don't agree that you can disregard the city attorney's opinion.
So the city attorney, who's not elected, has more power than city council?
I would at least say that it would be very dangerous at any time for any council to go against legal advice. If you don't trust the person you got, well, then maybe you need somebody else. But well, but let me finish on that. We have some serious issues that have to be dealt with, and one of them is a grievance that's coming up. We'd hate to see us ever lose that grievance. We have other issues in the farm right now where we could cause serious damage to Nelsonville if those issues didn't get taken care of. I think Gary's being close to retiring anyway.
About the legal matter of Mr. Hunter not being shared, I've never gotten anything. Does that mean that since December, when the 4 of us were all put in, that you have never asked him anything? Because no one's ever shared anything with me. Or I was just curious as to why that now that it's a big controversy that you're bringing it up.
Well, something was done in CPA, I think.
I've asked Mr. Hunter to craft legislation that we've passed in a committee either sat on or chaired. I've asked Mr. Hunter to check legislation that we already had written to make sure it was still okay.
I'm just saying though, if you said everything should go to all of us, I can't speak for anyone else, but I know that nothing you have asked him has ever came to me. You're bringing up it should be sent to everyone, but why does it only start applying as of last week?
Well, it seems like as of last week that maybe council could have found out about an illegal appointment, I mean, before an email or before a news article. I mean, if there was an illegal appointment, which you say there's no decisions allowed over email, it actually would seem to me that the council president made a decision in declaring her appointment illegal over email that day. That advice was given to other people or one person.
I didn't know that no one else knew.
Well, I thought I understood the appointment quite
You would think being on
fine.
council for 2.5 years that you would have already known the question I asked as to whether it took 4 people or not.
It seems like the opinion changed, and I think if the opinion moves, council deserves to know before the newspapers and before at least at the same time as council president, because it cuts down on confusion, controversy. If we all can act with information that is correct, and not just the information that someone wants us to know, we can act appropriately for the city of Nelsonville. Whereas in the last week, we've had to act on information from any source. From multiple sources in the room, I had to hear third hand from somebody, and then I get an email from Dana. For the many digits that are in the attorney's salary, that would have at least bought the taxpayer equal opportunity information.
Carla, didn't you share that with both Margaret and Taylor before the meeting?
Yeah, I assumed that Taylor knew it took 4 votes being through. I just didn't know because I'm fairly new and I wanted to be sure because I didn't know the answer. But the information was we needed 4 votes and you already knew that, right?
No, the information was about the council president election.
My concern is I requested a special meeting and I thought we would be discussing Dottie's appointment. And then when we showed up for that discussion, Dan had already in secret, with the advice of the attorney, appointed Derek.
I think it's fair to say that Gary told Dan he could make the appointment.
Have you read his opinion on the appointment?
Yes, I've read his opinion on the
It's a
appointment.
lot of advice to me.
It sounds like even more than advice.
Yeah,
It reads like an order. It leaves us in a very strange position.
Taylor, I wasn't lying that night. I sat here and said, let's keep talking, because if we don't come to a decision with 4 votes, and I pointed right at Dan and said, it's going to be Dan's decision.
We should change the rules moving forward to prevent such a thing, because not all of us will be on council forever. And so there are going to be future council people who don't have the experience of last Monday like we did. And so we should have rule changes to prevent it.
I taught citizenship test prep for about 6 years to immigrants getting their citizenship. So I'm not a lawyer, but I do know something about the Constitution. And I think that when Dan denied that second vote, that you correctly, Greg, advised needed 4 votes, and he didn't do the second vote, he denied her equal treatment under the 14th Amendment, and he also, when stating to the press that he did it because he was not happy with Dottie's politics and the fact that she had protested, which is in the First Amendment of the Constitution. I think that you need to fire the lawyer immediately, and I think Dan Sherman needs to be removed. Thank you.
He said it was the smartest thing said in this room yet.
Okay, so
This isn't how I wanted to join council. I tried for the seat twice. Later in the week, after Dottie's appointment, I was approached and asked if I would still like to join council, which I responded to Dan. I don't want to go through that again. You know, I've done it twice. I don't want to try again. He said that, no, I can appoint you. Dottie's appointment was illegal, which gives me the power to appoint who I want. I didn't want to do this in secrecy. I didn't want to hide it from any of you. I wanted it to be open and honest and transparent. So moving forward, I want the conversation to be just that, no secrets. That's why I agree with you that if, he gives an opinion, we should be just one body and have a conversation about the issue instead of one person getting an opinion and using it as ammunition against the others. There shouldn't be sides. Everyone should be copied on it. That way you're coming in prepared and we all have the same knowledge and information.
If you didn't want to join council this way, why did you agree to do it?
Well, because I still thought that I could make a change. If it wasn't me that joined council, it could have been someone else. And I think the results show that I wanted to see change here today. So I felt that by joining council, the city can still move in the right direction. So it was a tough decision. It wasn't made easy. There was nothing against you. This whole time, Dottie, I've said that if I lose to anyone, it's going to be Dottie. So I was, surprised when Grant got it. He's nice, but I think I've seen you. You're great. So no, I've seen what you do with like the community dinners, and I participated in one. And I thought to myself, I said this to everyone I know. I'm like, you may not know who Dottie is, but she, out of the goodness of her heart, she puts this community dinner on every Thursday night. And I simply wanted to be on council and make a change. Like I said, I think that shows tonight. And
You'd make a change by resigning.
I don't want to resign. I want to continue to make positive change for the town.
I have a comment, just as an exercise in active listening. It seems that if everybody on the board and in the town is in agreement that it is time for change, perhaps the next step is to remove the person who is fighting change and make sure that people like Dottie are appointed that do intend to fight for change and intend to fight for the actual people of Nelsonville.
Okay, I asked a question on that point too. If for some reason Mr. Sherman is let go, there would be an open spot on council, and that could be appointed as well. And would it take a vote by council to appoint?
You can only remove a council member by charter, which is a recall election, and it wouldn't happen until next November anyway, when everybody's being elected.
It actually can be done through hearings, through this council, through the Judiciary Committee.
Taylor, there's no way the council can remove a
No, there's a charter. There's a charter provision, but the charter. I actually recently, Chuck. I don't know if you got my email, but I requested the charter be put on the city website.
It is out there.
Okay, so it's
kind of hard to find, but it is out there. If you go on your web or on your computer, you'll see a row of drop-down menus. One of them's documents, and if you click on that, and down at the bottom it says ordinances and code, and one of them will say 2015 City of Nelsonville City Code. You click on it, it drops down more items, and one of them is the city charter. It is the 15-page doc. The charter is only 15 pages.
I get it off 100 website.
It takes you to the same place.
You go to Google and type in Nelsonville City Charter. I think Dan will openly tell you that he blew it, and he blew it bad. I don't think he's going to argue with that, but I will not support any effort to try to destroy somebody. As a council, we all need to move on and do the best we can and try to get things done for the city. We got so much work that needs done. The police need grants written. There's a position on the planning commission.
Dottie's great at planning and grant writing.
There's two zoning.
I mean, we got all kind of work, which I think is on the work that Betty Jo and the people are doing on that neighborhood revitalization program. That's way more important than what we do here on council.
Why don't you resign and take that position?
There's more work than I can do, and I'm not going to resign, and I'm not going to participate in any effort to destroy anybody. And that's why I put this shirt on tonight, Team Buckeye. We got to get back to working as a group.
He's not destroying Dan, he destroyed himself.
We demand accountability of all our public servants.
I think you guys are at a great point of change, and keeping it positive is really important as a citizen. I don't know how long Gary Hunter's term is for. I don't know how much a law director gets paid for that. If that would be a way to save some money since he's been on it so long, and maybe this is a time of change since those things have happened, and maybe some of that money could be used towards the police staff or towards something. And maybe there's a lawyer in town who would like that position at a lower pay.
I make some comments about that. Yeah, actually, that's actually been in discussion for a couple months now, because I mean, multiple of us have been very unhappy with his service lately. He's getting paid a lot for what he does, and a lot more than some other cities. So,
last year, Gary Hunter made $46,000, and he pays the city prosecutor.
Greg,
his hourly rate is $140 an hour, and I just wanted to put the facts in.
Excuse me.
How many days?
Can I make a comment? My name's Andrea Reich. I don't live in Nelsonville, but I ran children's services for 20 years. I worked in public meetings. You are a public entity. You need to follow rules and procedures. Robert's Rules of Order is a perfect opportunity. You would eliminate some of these controversies that you're having here if you had your policy procedures very clear. It's not acceptable to not know where these rules are. Go to the commissioners' meetings, see how they operate. Go to Athens City Council, go to Logan to their city council. You can see how meetings have policy procedures, agendas, speaking orders. It will eliminate some of the issues from what I've read in the paper. Dottie is a colleague of mine. I've worked with her. I know her heart's in the right place. So that is why I'm here. But I come tonight watching it, and you need You need to get organized, not to say there's rules somewhere in a book and I don't know where. We want the best for Nelsonville.
I agree with that, and this is actually, I think, Ed's idea from a while ago, but not only should there be adopted, known, found rules in front of us, but they should be actually taped, a cheat sheet on the table, so that every vote and motion we have is known right here.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, but I will disagree with Robert's Rules of Order because it makes no provisions for citizens.
That's not true.
That's not
Well,
That is not true.
Where the public speaks and how they can speak should be well delineated in those rules. They need to be adopted by resolution or ordinance. The council only speaks by rules and resolution.
Article 11, Section 8 of the Nelsonville City Charter, which is titled Removal of Official. The council members and members of boards and commissions shall be removed for cause as provided in this section of this charter. The charging official, having reason to believe there is probable cause for the removal of a council member, shall give notice, lots of legalese, shall not be counted in determining required majorities. The important part here is the very first one, which says failure to possess or maintain the qualifications of the office prescribed by this charter. If Dan Sherman was not a registered elector of Nelsonville for the required year, and with due respect, Mr. Bowens, if it's the case that you were not a registered elector for 1 year prior to your appointment, the city council can vote to remove you.
I think you're going to have to look at the High Constitution, which says what a qualified elector is.
Except as is provided for in the city charter, sir.
Our city charter cannot overrule the High Constitution.
It does not overrule.
The charter was developed by an 11-person committee, and if you keep reading that charter, you'll see a section that says, anytime this charter disagrees with the Higher Revised Code or the Higher Constitution, then the rest of the charter shall remain in effect, and the charter should be changed to comply with the Constitution or Higher Revised Code.
Where does it disagree?
Higher Constitution says that a qualified elector is somebody that's lived in a town for 30 days and while registered.
It says you have to have been a qualified elector for 1 year.
Wait a minute, that was a legal opinion that everybody on council here got, and it cited the Higher Constitution and it cited the Higher Revised Code as being in disagreement with our charter, and our law director, who I know some of you don't like, said very plainly that our charter cannot go against a Higher Revised Code or the Higher Constitution.
Is it your official opinion then, sir, that Chapter 11, Section 8 of Nelsonville City Charter is invalid? Yes or no, sir?
The controlling issue on that is the Ohio Constitution that says that anybody who has lived in a town and been registered for 30 days is a qualified elector.
It should have to be one for a year.
Thank you.
It's not, it doesn't.
They're
not differing on the
They're not
definition of
different.
elector.
The Higher Constitution says 30 days.
We're not attorneys, and we pay some lot of somebody else.
That opinion was emailed to you. You was copied on that email. I don't know.
Well, we don't. At the last meeting, when we were not allowed to speak, I believe, illegally, so I was very frustrated. I went home very frustrated. I was very frustrated for days after. I've worked with Dottie, and Dottie is a friend of mine. I'm not planning on hashing out Dottie's appointment specifics tonight, but I did want to speak with the permission of council. I just wanted to read a letter that I wrote, if that's okay.
Yes.
When I ran for city council, I envisioned big ideas. I campaigned door to door, hitting every street in town. I talked about street repair, a mayor system of government, and a balanced budget. I had no idea at the time that the problems that city council faced were so deep, that the issues would be so much more protracted than I could have imagined. Mr. Mash over in the corner likes to tell me from time to time, I told you it needed a lot of work, didn't I? I had no idea at the time that Mr. Mash, who feels very differently politically than myself, would come to work together so well and so effectively. I had even less of an inkling that he would come to resign, not in disgrace, but in disgust. Disgust at the truly mind-boggling tactics and statements coming from some on this body. That day he told me he would officially resign. I could not imagine what would drive him to such a decision when there was so much to work on. I felt a bit helpless, and I definitely felt hopeless. I wondered myself, what could I have done to prevent everything from coming to that, as I'm sure many at this table felt the same. The last week or so has tested me even deeper. I have lost multiple nights of sleep, for any of those looking closely under my eyes. I have stirred through the night multiple times and thought about how I could help the city, my city, our city, recover from this. I'm going to embarrass my mom a little bit. My mother, by far the toughest person in this room right now, no offense to everyone else, has been so stressed and so concerned about the hyperbolic and often hostile nature of this council and some of its members that she appeared at my door this week when I didn't answer her calls or text by mistake one morning like I usually do. She was worried about my safety and had tears just behind her eyes when I opened my door. I believe no council should ever get to a place that pushes anyone like this. I was more shocked to see that there was even a single soul in Nelsonville who would support some of the things I witnessed in the last week. That anyone in my town would be willing to overrule the many for their own choices, or that there was anyone in our town willing to illegally stop discussion and conversation of elected council members and leave themselves the only ones speaking at the table by the end of the night. At a time when Integrated Services is opening a new and improved, and I might add solar-powered, center up on top of the hill at St. Mary's, or with the progress on street repair, the old prison building, which is progressing very quickly, the new apartments opening in the saved school building, it really is a shock to my senses to see the division. There's so much going on for the city outside of these walls, and most importantly, its people are working harder than ever. When I ran for city council, I heard something far too often, quote, Nelsonville has no future, or quote, it is a dying town. Myself and Ed, sometimes called radical for envisioning something for Nelsonville that too many had given up on our community, a future. We already have a long and storied past, sometimes something we get stuck on around this body too often. But what we needed then was a future, and what we still need today is a future. And I am certain that no amount of bickering or gavels or being out of order will ensure this future for our community. What we need are ideas. We need passionate people, young people, experienced people, poor people, wealthy people. I wrote this quick note, and I appreciate your patience, to plead with this council, everyone on this council, and to beg our citizens to fight for ideas and policies that don't just give us hope for a future, but policies that will give this town another chapter, or maybe even two. I ask everyone at this table to support, and only support, new ideas that give us that chapter, and to reject, and not be afraid to vote no from time to time, the long history of cynicism that can grab a hold of people too easily. I joined this council's call for a special meeting tonight so that we could decide once and for all that Nelsonville deserves a better tomorrow, and that the people here deserve a better tomorrow. And I hope you will all fight for that as well.
I want to congratulate you. Nothing against anybody else, but I've always, in Margaret can tell you, I've always called her the peacekeeper. I've been frustrated many nights, and I've called Margaret and said, hey, she settles us down. I think this is the best thing we can have on council. You know, well, this person said here the longest, this person said here the shortest. Doesn't make any difference. You know, all this is everyone up here is supposed to listen to the people that elected you. You're not supposed to listen to outside sources, your mommy, your dad, your brother, your sister, your children, or anything else. You're supposed to listen to the people. And that's how you're supposed to vote. Just because you personally don't like anything, you don't vote that way. I mean, I've heard it. Taylor, you're right. Very disgusting the last 4 or 5 months. Because everybody wants to interject their personal feelings into it. And you can't. This town is going to die. If we don't change it, it's going to die. I fought hard for it. It's disgusting.
If I could add, there were times where Ed and I wanted to just scream at each other for 2 days straight. And it was Margaret who usually kept the peace.
When we were elected, me and Taylor actually got voted in by the people.
Well, I think.
And let me finish, Craig, please. I mean, citizens' comments, First Amendment rights. But the thing of it is, well, no, that's what I've been told too, you know, with the police officer. He has First Amendment rights, say whatever he wants. But the thing of it is, let's go back to it. We fought against each other, didn't we, during election? We even said some harsh things to each other and everything else. The night I was elected, what'd I tell you? We both shook hands and said we'd work together, didn't we?
Yep.
And what else did I tell you? I said, this town is corrupt. This town is full of corruption. It's going to be hard, if not impossible, to break. I mean, a business owner told me the other day, he said, you know, because I told him, I said, this town's going to die, and he said, no, he said, you know what'll keep this town alive? Is the people. He said, if you look at all the bad council, the bad city managers, the bad mayors in the past, he said, Nelsonville's strong, the people are strong. If you think the council's strong, it's the people that live in this town is strong. I mean, I see them every day working, fighting, struggling to make it better. Listen to them. Listen to what they're telling you. Just because you don't like them, don't ignore them. Listen to that person. This town don't look good next year as far as financially. You're looking at, there's a lot of projects need done that we just seem to keep ignoring. Just like Taylor the 6th wasn't, just the 6 times. I mean, it's way more than 6 times that we asked actually to get the rules of council. When we first were brought on council, we asked for the rules. Hey, there's a brochure we're going to give you. Did we ever get that brochure? We probably asked 50 times. And then before we trained the new people, did we not ask for it again? That's the problem with this city. And like the lady over here said, and Mr. Bargy can agree with this, I fought for policies and procedures for this city. I mean, I put in for the policies, as far as employee policies, last April of last year, not this year, of last year, and we just got to April of this year. It should not take a year to make up a set of policies when they're copied from another city that I already went in and changed from London, Ohio to Nelsonville, Ohio. But, you know, and then we talk about the attorney. We want to trust the attorney, and we believe in, and I'm not saying not to trust them or anything, but we only listen to them when we want to. Some council listens to them when they want to, and then not, then I want a second opinion. Let's get a second opinion. So do we trust the man or not? If we trusted them, why did we hire another attorney during the whole police situation? And you can say, well, this other attorney's an expert. This man isn't an expert. If he is, why did we hire him? Why do we continue to keep him? But nobody wants to face the hard facts. You start bringing it up, wow, we're paying this money out and everything else. And everybody, yeah, I know, but it seems like nobody wants to vote no or vote yes, let's do this. I mean, you've got to make an aggressive move. You don't make an aggressive move, we're done for. You don't get policies and procedures out there. We're working in corrections. Certain jobs, you got a policy on going to the bathroom. I mean, because of the tight security area here, there's very few policies. I mean, if you don't pay your water bill, it gets enforced on some people, don't on other people. We've got probably $80,000 in unpaid water bills. We've got trash pile road. What is the real name of it?
Woodland.
Woodland. But I know it's trash pile road because that's what everybody called it. I mean, it's falling in. We've got the storm sewer by the old pool falling in. I could give you guys a list of 100 projects that you're really needing a big millions of dollars to repair. So you better, like, and we do need younger people, you know, like Grant. I've talked to Grant. He's smart. You guys need to listen to him. I mean, I've talked to Mark. I've talked to a lot of you up here. You're all smart in different areas, but I don't know. I'm frustrated. You do try to be positive. You talk about a family man there. Every time I call him, he's doing something for his dad or helping his family out. And you know what? I love a person that does that. Anybody helps your own family out, because and this town, all of us that live here all this time, we are family.
We are
So let's
family.
be family. Let's be family and work together. And you know, if you guys in council don't like what your family likes, then maybe you need to move. Move out of the family. I mean, you know, we are the family. We the people. Thank you.
Margaret, I wanted to say something that Ed brought up about you. I think when you and Carla both approached me and wanted me to be council president, I think my response is, why don't you do it?
It was.
But the only thing I disagreed with was shuttering the mayor's court. I actually tried to talk Carla into it too, and I don't think the answer was no. I think it was hell no.
If we're all going to work together, are you not qualified to do mayor's court? Taylor is part of it. Huh?
It'll have to be shuttered until Margaret can get trained.
But what I'm saying is, and the thing of it is, I mean, if I believe if you check the law, you can hire an outside source.
You can't hire a magistrate, but it probably costs more for a magistrate than just a lawyer.
Here's magistrate fee, $50 each month. That's really high, isn't it?
I don't know. I've never heard anybody.
I mean, I've got the license to do it.
No, it has to be an attorney.
Oh, it has to be an attorney now, not a magistrate. Here's where the rules keep changing.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Green. I actually live in Athens. When I first started to hear about this story, the thing that most got to me, I lived in Nelsonville for 3 years. I was a forestry student at Hocking College, and I've been an African American for this whole time. And when I lived here, I had issues with the police falsely accusing me of things that other African Americans did, and coming to my house and to my friends' houses looking for me when I was not the guilty party. And I was really young at the time and didn't know how to speak up for myself or to follow up on any legal action that the city had taken against me falsely. But what I was wondering, hearing that Dottie protesting was an issue, or one of the things that came up about her and not wanting her on council, was something that really struck me, because this is a time where a lot of people are expressing their views nationally and locally, and I feel like someone speaking up for people who are not represented on council, speaking up for people who aren't here to express their views, are the type of people that we should want on council. Someone who is thinking about people outside of their own demographics, people that might be coming into the area who would want to stay, who, I've moved in and out of Athens County, I've lived in Meigs County, and right now I'm a drumming instructor, and I have classes in a lot of the small towns. I work at schools and with kids and do a lot of personal activism myself. I don't know if there's rules against people doing some kind of protest in the council chambers that would have been held against her for what she did, or if are there rules against people on council doing activist work?
Everybody's free to do anything they want, anytime they want to do it, as long as they're within the law. If it's at a council meeting and you're disrupting the meeting, and the president orders you or calls you out of order, then you have to stop. We allow people to come to the microphone and speak that we disagree with. There's no problem with that whatsoever.
But in her situation, was it a matter of Dan not wanting her on council because of her making her opinions of something that had nothing to do with the council?
Yes.
That's the point I'm getting to. If you want to remove somebody from a position where they will be representing people in the community that need representation, and put somebody on the council that is not going to bring those things up, then that becomes a problem. And I don't know you at all. I don't know if that was the case, but reading just the papers and seeing that, I'm looking at someone who was speaking up and brought a national issue to the floor of the Nelsonville Council, and that was something that wasn't legally wrong, but was something that was obviously on his mind enough to mention it and for it to get into the paper for everybody to read. So we don't want activists who are speaking up to feel like they should not be speaking up for people, because then we stay in the same situations no matter what the subject is. These are not people who know me and fall. I'm very much more of a centralist than a leftist or a rightist in this day and time, and a lot of these protests are not things that I personally agree with myself even, but I don't want people to feel that they shouldn't be able to do them, and I don't want people that need people to advocate for them to not get their voices heard via someone else because they've been removed from the council. And that's the thing that most bothered me, and I've heard even through a lot of the other conversation that hasn't come up, but that was definitely the thing that I've discussed with a lot of other people, and I'm kind of worried, that certain issues will not be able to be moved forward. And there's lots of things I've heard, today that the council needs to focus on. So having a diverse group of people who have different concerns, I feel is the best way to get that done. So I want to personally thank Dottie for speaking up for people, and regardless if you're on the council or not, I feel like you're already doing the job as a community leader, so thank you.
I've been doing a little Googling, and according to the Ohio Bar Association, since we are a municipality with a charter, we are subject to Ohio's Home Rule, which states that Home Rule gives municipalities flexibility to determine the form and administrative organization of local government and permits its residents to have a greater voice in determining local policies. There is nothing in the Ohio Constitution that restrains a municipality from passing a charter that has more stringent requirements.
Sir, you are absolutely wrong, and I would advise you to talk to an attorney about that. Any charter is a subdivision of the state of Ohio, and you are required to obey the Ohio Constitution and the United States Constitution. Matter of fact, everybody here raises their right hand and says, I swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Ohio, the whole oath of office.
Another thing for Judiciary Committee meeting?
Yes.
To research.
It's going to be a busy committee.
That would be the same thing as saying that because we formed a charter, we could have a charter rule that says certain people weren't allowed to vote. We have constitutional rights that are established by both the United States Constitution and the Ohio Constitution. And that would be the same as saying that because Nelsonville had home rule, that you could say women couldn't vote or some other crazy thing like that. You are obliged to follow the United States Constitution and the Ohio Constitution.
Okay, I apologize.
No apology needed.
In conversations with Derek over the phone, he had a really great idea that I hope this council asks for, and maybe Margaret, you could ask the attorney or the next clerk of council, which I'm very sorry to lose Ann. I wish you weren't gone. And thank you for your help these
Can you do anything to bribe you to stay?
these months. But we should ask that our ordinances and resolutions specifically lay out at the bottom, if you're voting yes on this, you are voting for a $50,000 something, or you are voting to approve the city manager's actions with a grant or something. If you are voting no on this ordinance, you are voting to not spend the $50,000.
I think that's a great idea.
It's such a common sense idea. I was like, we have to do this because if we have, this has happened too often, we have ordinances in front of us that we can't understand. So I know with experience, if I can't read it, then nobody else is understanding as far as the general public, except for maybe some of the attorneys in town. And I just thought it was a really great idea, and I don't take credit for it, it's Derek's idea. We should put at the next meeting, if you're voting yes, this, if you're voting no, this. And it should be cut and dry, no confusion.
Who's going to decide what the numbers are?
Let's say it says to appropriate $10,000 from the water fund for inspections. I'm just making something up. Then the finance committee would say for the ordinance, yet the vote yes is to move $10,000 from the water fund to inspections. Vote yet no is to not approve $10,000 from the water fund to inspections.
This is a whole new language that you have to learn.
And that way, people who come to the meetings can say, okay, I clearly understand what their vote means and what it doesn't mean.
Do you remember though when we asked for that to be explained for the new people, spelled out in the ordinance, and never got done?
I agree that me, you, and Taylor are trying to do the best we could to get the new people up to speed. And it's really
We appreciate that.
it's really a hard job. And I know that I'm a know-it-all, and I know that aggravates people, and it's just because I have this habit, I read constantly. I've been here forever, and I held almost every city job before I got on council, so it's just a long list of experience, and I know I aggravate people. I'm sorry about that. But I try to make sure that we never do anything that crosses the law. And I had no problem with saying, well, time out, let's wait, let's continue the meeting and make sure we're right. I think that was a good suggestion. We tried the best we could to get people up to speed. It's just impossible to teach somebody everything there is to know about being a council person. And I don't care if you had a week. It's really a tough job. And anybody that don't believe that, take our phone calls. So-and-so's this and so-and-so's that, and everybody wanting you to make things fair for everybody, the text messages and stuff, and you do the best you can, and you take your criticism, and you go on, and that's why I'm saying, let's not beat up anybody, let's just try to do the best we can in the future. And Ed, I want to say this, I would have never asked you to quit.
I didn't say you asked me to quit.
I would have never. If I had known about it.
All right.
I got one other question. You know, we keep saying the home rule and the Ohio Constitution and the state Constitution. And why do we have this dumb form of government? Why don't we go back to a statutory form of government so that you elect the person that's going to run this town? If you don't like him, vote him out, kick him out. Elect a mayor. That mayor is not God. Council can override him. And the people don't like it, the people vote him out. We had one bad experience. Look at this. this charter form of government, boy, if we ain't swimming in the money now. Not true. I mean, we've got issues and we need to get back to, if we got home rule, I've heard this time and time again. You know, the Ohio law says this, home rule, home rule. But then if somebody brings up something that we don't like, the Ohio Constitution says you can't do it. So, you know what? Best way, abolish this, go back to a statutory form of government.
Yay.
It's what you need to do. And move on. Let's get a mayor that will represent this town and pull the people together.
And Nash for mayor.
Nash for mayor, yeah.
We're good to go.
Anything else?
I just want to say thank you for listening to us and allowing us to speak and say what we want. Yes. Thank you.
So I just want to say this to get it behind me, to get all of this behind us, that it's in regards to my appointment. So Dan appointed me a second time after hours, 5 or 6 o'clock here. The firefighters witnessed it, signed off on it, some of them, 2 of them. It was my understanding Dan would make the second one public. I went through the first one, I didn't want to keep the secret. I said, Dan, if we do this a second time, to get me within the 1-year requirement, you're going to make it public, right? And I don't think you received, has anyone received an email?
No.
No? Yeah, so it was done a second time to get me in the 1-year tenure or residency requirement, and I'm throwing it out there now, that way it can get. I'm not aware.
I don't think anybody has any trouble with you. I think you'll represent the city well. It's just the way it was done.
Well, that's why I'm saying it now, because I don't want to leave here today and then somebody bring it up at the next meeting, or I just want to get it off my chest, and I want to start with a fresh slate, so that's why I'm saying it before we adjourn.
But I know me as a citizen, I appreciate that.
Thanks.
I don't think you should have accepted. That's my personal opinion.
I understand.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Bowden?
Yes.
Ms. Guston?
Yeah, right.
Ms. Grant? Yes. Mr. Sampson?
Yes.